Well, a very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the October Outlook. It is Wednesday the 23rd of September, and the month of September really was a classic month which showed the turnaround versus the time of the year. The same drivers which produced a given pattern during the warm season is now given a different signal as we push into the autumn months. Of course, we are starting to see the atmosphere respond to the time of year, and of course we see different responses between ocean and atmosphere, and of course the lowering angle of the sun. Now, September was in fact a very warm month generally across much of the United States, but the very areas that was seen plenty of heat, both over the Pacific Northwest, over the Southeast, in fact, it was either cool or around average. The very areas that were coolest and wettest during the June through August period, of course, we've seen plenty of hot, dry weather to speak of, particularly from the central and northern plains through especially the Great Lakes, where it has been a cool, disappointing summer, and this has extended into Ontario and Quebec, where we've seen the core of the warmest on the south shore of Hudson Bay. And of course, just last month, middle part of August, was seen ice remaining within James Bay. So big turnaround, of course. What are we expecting during the month of October? I don't really see much change, if I'm being honest. I do think it is going to be a fairly decent October across much of the country. However, I do think the first half of the month will be warmer than normal, drier than normal across the very areas that has seen the hot, dry weather during the month of September. So that, of course, includes the central northern plains through the Great Lakes into parts of Ontario and Quebec. I do think we're going to start to see more and more troughiness into the west coast. So keeping that cooler and more unsettled theme going. And of course, we've got the lower heights underneath this big strong ridge of high pressure. What does that mean? Well, of course, we've got abnormally warm water, both in the Gulf, in the Western Atlantic Basin as well. Temperature was sea surface temperatures generally in the 85 to 90 degree range in many areas. And when you've got these rises in heights further north, the collapse of lower heights, negative heights over that warm water, you really need to watch out, folks. And the moles are sniffing out a Gulf tropical threat early next week. Of course, we've got the system off the east coast, which is going to throw gales and flood and rain onshore through the Carolinas up into the DC Baltimore area. And so we need to watch that type of setup. This is at the CFSV2 October 2 meter temperature anomaly. As you can see here, very warm across really a large swathe of the country. Is it overdone? Well, it is possible, but it's going to be very interesting to see how the month of October plays out. Overall, I think it's going to be a warmer start, a cooler finish. We need to watch the West Pacific. Of course, we've got some increased tropical development here in the Western Pacific. It's been a busy season, of course, with the El Nino at a strong, mature phase at the moment. But as we go through the early part of October, it looks as if the Pacific is going to light up, and it's the exact movement, the track of these systems that will indicate what type of pattern we're going to see in the upper levels of the atmosphere above North America. Of course, if you've got a straight westerly track of a typhoon into China and whatnot, you tend to have more ridging over the central and eastern half of the country. If you've got one that recurves up east of Japan into the North Pacific, that tends to send the trough into the eastern half of the United States here, and that has in the past produced some pretty major shots of cold during the month of October over the United States. Precipitation wise, it's no surprise here. The heaviest of the precipitation is following around the periphery of the country, near to where the warm waters are present, of course, off the west coast, in the Gulf, and off the southeast coast. And of course, where we've got that high pressure dominant, we're going to see drier than normal conditions. And the model is seeing that over the northeast, extending into the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, and even the central plain states. The MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, appears to be entering fairly warm phases for the month of October, 6, 7, and 8 as you can see here off this graphic, tend to be quite warm phases for the United States during the September through November period, the autumn months. Sea surface temperature anomalies look like this here, very warm off California, off the east coast here, so we need to watch out for tropical trouble, especially the Gulf and up the east coast. This is the type of pattern with El Ninos in place that we can get these surprise hits on the Gulf and the east coast. So lots going on. Keep checking back here at markvaughanweather.com. I appreciate if you're not a subscriber but you're watching on YouTube. Do sign up if you haven't already done so. Give it a try. We're getting closer and closer to the winter season. I'm going to be releasing my winter forecast at the beginning of November. But for daily written and video posts related to the United States weather, you will have that information right here on markvaughanweather.com. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Bye for now.